Do you feel and think deeply about everything? Are you easily overwhelmed by sensory input? If you answered yes to these two questions, it's very likely that you are a highly sensitive person, also known as an HSP. But before I continue, I want to welcome you to the Spirit Panda podcast. I am your host and coach, Neftalí Vélez, and this bite-sized show is intended for highly sensitive professionals who want to design extraordinary lives worthy of their innate traits. In today's episode of Turning Your Sensitivity into a Superpower, you will be able to identify if you are a highly sensitive person and learn about the great benefits of having your senses finely tuned. And make sure you watch until the end of this episode for 10 tips to help you stay healthy and thriving as an HSP in an overwhelming world. This program is intended to be watched in chronological order, starting from episode 1. That way you could benefit from the free coaching program. So let's dive back into the topic of discussion today. Have you been told before that you're over worrying about the state of the world too often? Or that you're frequently overreacting and overthinking every aspect of your own life? Statements like, everything is gonna be okay, calm down, you're overreacting. Or, why are you being too sensitive? Statements like this are intended to calm us, but instead they make us feel worse, alone, and misunderstood overall. If you've heard these things before, it's because you are a highly sensitive person. So what is a highly sensitive person? In 1996, research completed by Dr. Elaine N discovered that approximately 15 to 20% of the general population is born with the trait of high sensitivity. These empathic souls feel deeply just about everything, their inner worlds and their surroundings. They have 2, 3, 4, even 5 of their senses are more finely tuned than the general population. They're often mischaracterized as reactive, hypersensitive, shy, intense. These are all common traits that, if you have been called any of this before, very, very likely you are a highly sensitive person. So let's figure out if you are an HSP. The following 20 statements are intended to be answered with a yes or a no, and you're gonna go on your gut instinct. Don't overthink it. Typically the first answer that comes up is what's correct. This is an adaptation from 1996 research from Dr. Aron and her HSP self-test. Now let's dive into these questions. I consider myself a conscientious person. I am a detail-oriented person with a complex inner life. I am overly cautious when making a decision. I often find myself reflecting on past events. Large crowds overwhelm me. I notice subtleties in my surroundings that others don't. I often need to withdraw to a quiet and empty space to remove myself from stimulation. Non-stop talkers exhaust me. I feel deeply and intensely. I'm easily moved by the arts or music. I'm affected by other people's moods. I have a strong sense of empathy for other people. I am sensitive to the effects of caffeine. I have a low tolerance for bright lights, strong smells, and coarse fabrics. Loud and repetitive noises disrupt my mood. I am very sensitive to physical pain. As a child, I was perceived as shy or sensitive. I perform poorly under pressure when being observed. I have a hard time adapting to life changes. I avoid conflict at all costs. So if you scored anywhere between 9 and 11 in your HSP test, that means that you have mild sensitivity. If you scored 11 or more, you are a highly sensitive person. You could find a link so that you could take the HSP test on your own time in the episode description. Now, I want to talk about my experience as an HSP that also is extroverted. I'm within only 30% of the population of HSPs. Most HSPs are introverted. That's 70% of the population. So for a long time, or all my life until 4 or 5 years ago, I would mischaracterize myself. I would describe my intensity as hot and cold. I was empathic and very connected, and then other times I was completely drained. And I would just feel that I love people, and then at the same time I'd be like, oh my God, I just can't be around people any longer. And I would say I'm an extrovert introvert, when in reality I'm not. And that was all lack of understanding my innate trait better. And once I stumbled upon Dr. Elaine's research, it changed my life. Because finally I was able to accept my trait as the superpower and gift that it is. And this is really important for us HSPs, to move from awareness into acceptance, and from acceptance, learn how to be able to become adaptable. There are 4 main pillars in the trajectory of self-care for HSPs that Dr. Elaine speaks about in her book. Physical conditioning, so being physically active is important. Spirituality, therapy, and coaching. And funny enough, in my business, I do 2 of them. I bring spirituality and coaching together. And I like to be physically active. When I'm not, my mind spirals way more often. I feel my whole nervous system off. And it's a really big struggle a lot of times to be an HSP. As much as it is a gift, there's always a yin to the yang. So let's talk about a little bit more about some of the aspects that are not so great about being HSP. Here are 10 common challenges HSPs face. Compulsive thinking. Feels generally misunderstood. Fosters resentment. Often experiences social exhaustion. Poor boundaries. Low self-esteem. Flight or fight when dealing with conflict. Experiences triggers from the past wounding. Easily disrupted. Low pain tolerance. Emotional buffering. Being HSP could be a great thing, but as we just listed, could have a lot of different challenges. When we learn how to adapt, when we are capable of turning off our senses when we need, and removing overstimulation, we thrive. Now let's talk about the benefits of being an HSP. Depth of experience and feeling. Strong self-awareness. Appreciative of the small things. Intuitive nurturing skills. Increased empathy. Masters of self-care. Excels at forming close relationships. Generous and passionate. Finely tuned senses. Conscientious nature. So now it's time for my favorite part of the show, our segment of Ask Nef. In each episode, we dive into one viewer's question. Today's question comes from Wilma from Miami, Florida, and she would like to know, what specific things can I focus on to help me embrace more of my high sensitivity? First of all, thank you, Wilma, for this amazing, awesome question. I want to start off by saying HSPs are like the canary in the gold mine. We inform our counterparts, non-HSPs, of changes in our environment, of potential danger. We're the scout that comes back and gives information to non-HSPs about everything. These subtleties, this information, this amount of data is amazing, because with more data, we have more resources to be able to make better decisions. But this also needs to be managed. For myself, since I've known that I'm an HSP, I'm frequently changing my routines at home, at work, figuring out what works. Every HSP is different, and the amount of stimulation that you will be experiencing is different than the one I will. So I want you to be mindful of this. I want you to figure out what your needs are, and I want you to evaluate your surroundings and how could you influence them to adapt to your sensitivity traits. Being clear of this is going to be pivotal. Maintaining your boundaries is also a huge aspect. Don't blame other people for your sensitivities. Owning that you have sensitivities, understanding them, and be able to adapt your surroundings to meet your needs is going to be the key for you to succeed. Here are 10 tips to help every HSP stay healthy and thriving. Schedule quiet time. Having a nervous system means that it requires a lot of time of you removing stimulation. It's just like the iPhone. Have you ever noticed that sometimes your battery dies with barely you using your phone? Have you wondered why? This is likely because you have a lot of apps in the background running. For HSPs, subtleties in your environment that you're picking up, even if you're not consciously picking it up, your subconscious is, and that drains your battery. So scheduling quiet time is a pivotal key point. Goals. Are you scheduling your day? What are the things that you love to prioritize? What is your self-care practice that is probably going to be really needed when you're feeling drained? Soothing music. For HSPs that feel and think deeply, music is therapy. Starting your day or ending your day with calming, soothing music, find music that has certain frequencies like classical music. The frequency of classical music hits that delta brainwave that calms you. So look for soothing music. Practice gratitude. Practicing gratitude is a very fundamental aspect for a purposeful life for anybody, but for HSPs is even more important because we need purpose. So send postcards, connect with old friends, practice gratitude with yourself, whatever it's needed, but make sure that you are practicing gratitude. Volunteering and donating. What things could you be doing in your community? How could you be showing up that could be really fulfilling and also might require little time commitment and low energy on your end? You don't have to do it every week. You could do this once a quarter, once a month, whatever it is, but give back. It always feels good. Get out of your space. This is super important. A lot of times we will run from overstimulation. We want to avoid completely removing ourselves from other people in social events. Why? Because we need to continue to be learning to adapt, to be able to create environments that are suiting to ourselves, but we still need experiences. So make sure that you do get out of your space. Technology detox. Don't have your phone on you all the time. Maybe at certain time in the day, you just don't use your phone any longer. This is a really good practice because your phone brings in so much stimulation. So this is one of my favorite ones. In the morning, I do not answer or look at my phone before I do journaling, meditating, schedule my day, and that's typically around 11 a.m. Sometimes I'm doing really creative writing work, but I'm not focusing on the external world yet. And at night, I try to call quits around 9 or 10 of at least not engaging with the outside world. Embrace the slowdown. This one is a little bit hard, especially if you're a high sensation seeker, which we will be talking about high sensation seekers in our next episode. Why? Because we're used to going, but that going burns the candle on both ends. So being mindful that we could embrace the isness, right? Maybe right now you're unemployed due to the pandemic, or potentially you're still working from home. Slow down could be a really good aspect for you. Learn to be able to embrace it. Stay physically and mentally challenged. This is a huge one also for high sensation seekers and even HSPs that we like to be engaged. We like to be focused on something. So physically challenge yourself, mentally challenge yourself. Go to yoga, do HIIT, which is high intensity interval training. Go to a dance class, do whatever it's needed, but stay challenged. And finally, social hour. Again, we are social beings. We still need to be socializing and we still need to be putting into practice the things that we learned from our last experience that we were socializing. What could be applied the next time? But it needs to be experience. We need to put ourselves out there. So reach out to your closest friends and make sure that you're scheduling some time intentionally to socialize, just as you schedule time to be able to remove stimulation. These are all things that I practice daily or weekly sometimes, and things that I recommend and I see that works for my clients too. All my clients are highly sensitive, so a lot of this feedback that I'm providing you is based off things that have worked for them and for myself. Thank you again to Wilma for submitting your question today. And anybody could submit their questions or topics for future episodes either by dropping a comment below or emailing me directly at asknef@spiritpandacoaching.com. Now here's a quick recap of the 3 key points that we covered in this episode. Approximately 15 to 20% of the general population is born with high sensitivity. Being an HSP is not about our emotions, it's about our senses. And it's crucial for every highly sensitive person to develop a self-care practice to help replenish our senses from overstimulation. And for today's assignment, you're gonna take the HSP self-test that is in the description of this episode, and you're gonna pick 2 practices that you're going to apply this week to help you replenish from overstimulation. Like our show, then hit that subscribe button for new episodes every week. And remember, ability over motivation. Engineering an extraordinary life that you desire requires strategic planning and commitment. I'll see you in the next one, guys.